Welcome to the Thursday MLB Slate Breakdown. I'm Jason Gilman. With me is Brent Hyde. Taking a look at tonight's 9-game Thursday slate. Very sizable Thursday slate compared to the usual stuff we get. And we got a little Coors on the slate as well.
Yeah, not really used to 9 games on a Thursday. I'm a little sad that Coors is on the slate. I wish FanDuel would have left it off because, it's windy and all that stuff. But here we are. It's on the slate. We have to deal with it. And hopefully, we're able to get through this pod as we were prepping. Birds were flying in my windows, which is apparently a bad omen. And I might have a heart attack or something live on stream. But yeah, hopefully we'll get through it.
That would be wild.
That would be pretty weird.
Yeah, mid-podcast. I wouldn't know what to do. I mean, obviously I know what to do, but I'm just trying to hey, I'll knock out this pod real quick before, and then I'll call everybody.
You just hang in there. I'll cover your part.
First game here, we got Kansas City, Baltimore. Ian Kennedy versus Chris Tillman. This game was a little tilting last night. I'm expecting plenty of runs here again, probably more so on the Kansas City side of things, just because Baltimore, you never know what you're going to get.
Yeah, I was definitely wrong yesterday when I said that either Skoglund would be terrible and the Orioles would be good, or the Orioles would be terrible and Skoglund would be good. It just didn't work out. Both Skoglund and the Orioles were horrible. I just don't know how that happens, but it did. Hopefully that doesn't happen tonight because there's some interesting plays from both sides of this game. Obviously, the Royals in a fantastic spot against Chris Tillman, who calling him a gas can would be an insult to gas cans at this point. I feel bad for any gas can out there that gets offended whenever they get compared to Chris Tillman.
I don't know. I can't tell Baltimore pitchers apart these days.
Yeah, no, there's not a whole lot separating them anymore.
No, it's like the Spider-Man meme, pointing against each other. That was Bundy and Tillman.
Yeah, except for Cashner has the beard, so.
That's true. And for some reason, he continues to just dodge complete blow-up games.
Yeah, it's magic.
I don't know how he does it. Tillman, he's been absolutely awful this year. I'll let you dive into some of these numbers for the Royals because I know you have a couple that really, really stand out.
Yeah, Lucas Duda. I wasted my free home run on Lucas Duda last night because tonight it's definitely going to happen. I hate guaranteeing a home run, but we're talking about Tillman, who's throwing an 89 mile an hour fastball, a significant amount, 35% of the time. Lucas Duda, 684 ISO against the pitch, 73% hard contact dating back to 2016. It's only 15 batted ball events because you don't really see a whole lot of pitchers throwing less than 90 miles an hour. But that's a pretty impressive number. Mike Moustakas, obviously in a great spot, continues to mash right-handed pitching. God, this entire team, anybody in the lineup, even Alcides Escobar, I joked on Twitter last night about him being the least imposing hitter to face when the bases are loaded. Even he could have a good game here. This is such a good spot for all of these guys.
Yeah, they really are, and you look like Tillman's a guy who also throws his slider, but his slider's not even that great. Doesn't generate a ton of swing strikes, and a couple of these bats still have decent ISO numbers against sliders. Moustakas 238, ISO Perez 163, Duda 184. Some bats in here you can definitely use. And I noted in the stacking article yesterday that Baltimore has a bottom 10 bullpen ERA. So even if Tillman goes out early, they're going to face another horrible pitcher.
Yeah, Baltimore's pitching is just terrible. Chris Tillman is fighting for his rotation spots, and that's really telling you something considering they have nobody behind them that is any good.
No. And I'm okay with here with the righties too. I'll look at Soler and Perez and Whit Merrifield here too.
Oh yeah, Salvador Perez, he's one of my top catchers on the slate, and Whit Merrifield because second base on FanDuel is completely terrible. Outside of a couple options, Whit Merrifield is a really, really good option. He's only 3,600 there, so I really like that spot.
Yeah, and if you need a value outfielder, John Jay's only 2.8 on DK.
Yeah, and he's going to be in that leadoff spot. He's going to get on base, and then Duda or Moustakas is probably going to drive him home. So you get a pretty good return on that 2.8 salary, and he's cheap on FanDuel too.
Yeah. Baltimore side of things here. Usually I like the lefties. against Candy. The problem is there's just not a ton of lefties in this lineup outside the guys that are really boom or bust, like Pedro Alvarez and Chris Davis. But I mean, Kenny's still giving up a pretty high hard contact rate. I mean, it's about 38% to both sides of the plate. So you can go here, but I don't completely love it.
I don't completely hate using Kennedy and GPPs in this spot. Like, not a ton of strikeout upside, only 20% dating back to last season. He is a fly ball guy that is a little bit concerning. He did give up a lot of hard contact to lefties, which again is concerning. But like this Baltimore team striking out 26% of the time against right-handed pitching, not really anyone that you're terribly worried about. Like I know Chris Davis has gone yard back-to-back nights against lefties. Maybe he does it against a righty this time. Pedro Alvarez, again, a platoon bat down there. Maybe Santana gets in the lineup, another lefty, but I don't know. Like I think Kennedy might be in play in GPPs.
6,500. I mean, you mentioned like the strikeout rate, fairly average, like 20.4% going back to last year. But I don't know. I think he's got some strikeout upside just because Baltimore has a ton of high strikeout prone bats.
Yeah, and I mean he's raised his strikeout rate a little bit this year. It's almost sitting at almost 22% this year, and like the fly balls have come down a little bit. Like against righties, only 31%. Against lefties, 41%. Like that's still a little bit concerning, but 171 ISO to lefties this season, 113 to righties. It's not terrible. Again, this is a spot where it could pay off. Um, it's risky, but it very well could pay off in the spot.
Yeah, it could. And I think you're probably looking at the usual guys here. I think if you're looking for some Baltimore bats, like I'll never mind Machado here. I still think Jonathan Scope is too cheap on FanDuel. I mean, even DraftKings is only 3,500. Um, yeah, I mean, none of these guys I'm really super excited. They're probably all secondary options for me.
Yeah, like I said, Chris Davis does stand out a little bit, especially if he's going to start heating up. Like Kennedy is throwing that 92-mile-an-hour fastball about almost 60% of the time. Chris Davis 466 ISO against it, 50% hard contact rate, dating back to 2016. Unfortunately, none of these guys outside of like Mark Trumbo and Manny Machado are making contact on these pitches a decent amount. Like everyone else is like 80% or below.
Yeah, it's crazy. Although Pedro Alvarez 413 mobile, 188 ISO, 75% contact rate.
Yeah, he's a decent platoon value option.
So, moving on here, you got the Yankees and Red Sox. You got Eduardo Rodriguez taking on CC Sabathia. A little bit of rain in this one projected, but should be a game that they get in. I don't have either interest in either pitcher here, do you?
I think CC is interesting, strictly just because like he's just done a good job of limiting runs this season. Like he's not expensive like on DraftKings as an SP2 option. He's in a good spot. Like I mean, if you look, 3 earned runs in one outing this season, and then one or fewer in every other outing. He's been good against Boston. He's won 5 straight starts against him dating back to 2016. Like I don't know, there's not a lot that I really want to use against him. Like obviously JD Martinez and a couple of these bats are scary, but this Boston team against lefties this season has been putrid. I mean, 73 WRC plus, sub 30% hard contact, 20 almost 23.5% strikeout rate. There's a path to CC actually having a decent game, and I don't think anyone's going to use him tonight.
I don't think so either. I don't like picking on CC Sabathia. It's just one of those things as well. Like you said, he's just a guy who's frustrating to go against, and you think he's a bad pitcher, but he's really not. He's just been a guy who's been crafty. He's thrown that slider 35% of the time. There's not a lot of guys that hit the slider completely well. You do have obviously like JD Martinez when he makes contact, 258 ISO against it, but outside of that, like I'm not thrilled. I don't know. I find myself there's too many other options I think for me on this slate that I'm going to be going with just because like Richards is fairly cheap, a couple other guys as well.
Yeah, he's a GPP option off. He's a pivot off into some of the chalkier cheap options here.
Yeah, and you mentioned it's like JD Martinez. Hanley would be the other guy that I'd have some interest in as well, but it's kind of dead.
Mookie, like obviously
Yeah.
in a decent spot, but again, none of these guys like hit sliders extremely well. It's just not really a spot where I think Boston has a ton of potential here.
No. New York side of things, though, definitely some interesting options. Rodriguez is a guy who's fly ball arm. A little bit worrisome, obviously, with some of these bats. Stanton's starting to look really dialed in here. Looked good against Porcello, going the opposite way last night. I think you can go back to the well here with Stanton.
Yeah, the Yankees are a stack that I did write about in the stacking article for today. Obviously, this is a very good spot. Like, we know that Erod has strikeout upside. He is a very like high strikeout guy, but he also happens to be a guy that gives up a lot of runs at times. He's allowing like a 30% hard contact. You mentioned the 40% fly ball rate, 1.3 home runs per nine dating back to last season. It's been a little bit worse for him this season. Aaron Judge stands out as a guy that should be in line for a good outing here. 710 ISO. I guess it's gone down since I wrote the article. It's a 500 ISO, I guess now. Against no, it's still 710. I had the wrong fastball speed selected against 93-mile-an-hour fastballs dating back to last season. That's pretty good. Stanton 395. Tyler Austin 222. A lot of power from those guys. I like this spot a lot for the Yankees.
Yeah, I do too. And you look at Rodriguez, the guy who throws his changeup about 22% of the time. A good changeup, I will want to say. I mean, he's generating a lot of swings and misses, but some of these guys that do hit changes, well, like Gary Sanchez, 450 WOBA, 474 ISO, dating back to 2016, Stanton, 380 WOBA, 321 ISO. Judge, like you mentioned, I mean, 432 WOBA, 361 ISO. Like, there's a lot of bats here. Even Andrew Hart in a small sample size hit changeups really well.
Yeah, and even Didi, like, I know it's lefty on lefty, but he's hit changeups extremely well too. Like, if you could make a case for just about everyone in this lineup, I think.
Yeah, and right now, I mean, lefties this year alone, 43% hard contact rate, 43% fly ball rate. So, yeah, you can get some exposure to DD here, who's hasn't been bad against lefties at all.
No, he's actually been pretty good against him.
Yeah, so, yep, hate to say it, but Yankee stack definitely in play here.
Yeah, Yankees got a little bit shafted, and, they didn't get to face David Price, but they get Erod, which is a consolation prize, I guess.
So what's he doing? Is he a DFS tout as off time?
Probably.
With the carpal tunnel syndrome?
Must be.
Yeah, must be. I don't know. Too much PlayStation.
Playing some World of Warcraft or something.
That's true. Yeah, Fortnite's the big craze.
I have never played Fortnite. I just haven't.
I'm in the same boat. I have not either.
I'll have to check it out, I guess.
Yeah. Seattle, Toronto next here. Mike Leake take on Jay Happ. Mike Leake's been absolutely awful this year.
Hey, he started the season really good. I mean, he had a 3.5 ERA in his first, 3 starts, and then it's been all downhill from there.
Yeah, and this is a guy I just hated target because he limited damage, and it's been the complete opposite this year. Like, his ground ball rate's down. I mean, he's just right around 40% to both sides. Hard contact just up an insane amount this year.
Yeah, and lefties are just blasting him. They're like a 333 ISO against him, like a 524 WOBA against him. Like, yeah, he's getting shelled, and this is a very good spot for these Blue Jays in a obviously hitter's environment.
I feel like they're kind of priced down too. Like Granderson, Solarte, Smoke, Hernandez all under 4K. Obviously Donaldson's 4.7. Like it's a kind of a cheaper stack too, and I don't think a lot of people are actually going to go that way.
No, because Coors is going to be popular, obviously, and you have a lot of these guys that are at the same position, like Teoscar Hernandez, probably the top option for me. Like, I know that's crazy with Josh Donaldson here, but Hernandez continues to just mash right-handed pitching. Still 40% hard contact rate, 44% fly ball rate, 349 ISO against him. That's just insane. He's crushed sinkers, 380 ISO, 468 xWOBA against it. Justin Smoke, fantastic spot here too. I mentioned Josh Donaldson, still not 100% sure he's healthy. He did look okay last night. You can roll him out, and then Jarvis Solarte is still just way too cheap on DraftKings. Like, he should be over 4K, and he's just not.
Yeah, like you said, all these guys just mash sinkers. A couple of these guys hit, cutters well, too, which is something League throws about 24% of the time. Like Granderson stands out, 356 WOBA, 450 xWOBA, 245 ISO. Solarte, I like him. I don't mind going Solarte over Donaldson tonight.
Yeah, for
You know you
sure.
don't have to, but
Yeah, you don't have to because he has that second base eligibility. But one guy, very, very sneaky. He's going to bat at the bottom of that order, 2,200 at shortstop on DraftKings, Lourdes Gurriel. It's a good spot for him as well because in a very small sample, he has matched some of these pitches that Leak is throwing, like against changeups, 300 ISO, 50% hard contact. It's only like 8 batted ball events, but it is a very good spot for him too.
Seattle side of things with Hap. Uh, Seattle let me down last night. It was a bummer. Um, I don't know. I don't exactly. I'm not using Hap, but I don't think I'm really going to be targeting here all that much outside of maybe like Haniger and Cruz.
Haniger and Cruz would be the guys that I would roll out here. I'm still mostly looking at like Hap. I think has potential to put up a good game. I don't know that I really want to pay 11K for him on DraftKings, strictly because this is a Mariners team generally that does not strike out that much. 9,100 on FanDuel is a little bit more fair though.
Yeah, I'd be more inclined to use him there because I think he'll get some runners on. I think he'll be a little bit iffy on DK at 11K, but like FanDuel where you don't have to worry about that stuff. I do think he has some strikeout upside. It's the price that I don't want to pay.
Yeah, for sure. And if you really wanted to stack against him, because the Mariners would be one of the lower owned stacks of the night for sure. You mentioned Cruz, Haniger, Zunino, and Healy would be the way that I would round the rest of that out.
Yeah, I would too. It's basically lines up as like a 4 through 8 stack.
Yeah.
So, moving on, Atlanta, Miami. Mike Foltynewicz versus Caleb Smith. This game's fairly low scoring as far as an implied total here goes, especially on the Atlanta side. So I don't think Caleb Smith is obviously that bad. He's got a lot of strikeout upside. The problem is he's facing a good Atlanta team that's really hit lefties well this year.
Yeah, Smith's not a guy that I'd be looking at using tonight, strictly because this Braves team just doesn't strike out against lefties. They're the best offense in baseball against lefties. I mean, 36% hard contact, 182 ISO against the handedness. And there's a lot of bats in there that just have so much freaking power. So you obviously not using Caleb Smith in the spot, even though it is a good park. You can stack against him if you really want to. If you look at it, like his numbers this season, not a whole lot of weaknesses that are really that bad. I mean, righties do have a 55% fly ball rate against them, and if you look dating back to 2018, I think righties have almost 200 ISO against them. So Kirk Suzuki, Ozzy Albies, Camargo, those guys in decent spots if you want to roll them out. I think Camargo is interesting on FanDuel because of his price.
Yeah, super cheap, and Acuna just keeps crushing the baseball. Like I don't mind some of these guys. I feel like it is kind of not a boomer bust spot, but I just don't think Caleb Smith is that bad. You know.
Yeah, I don't think so either. It's just a matter of these guys are just so good.
Like, yeah, and they'll be low owned again.
Yeah, for sure. And like if you look like Caleb Smith, 93 mile an hour fastball, he's thrown about 55% of the time. Ozzy Albies, 517 ISO against it. That's pretty good.
Yeah. And Albies is another guy. Albies hits sliders really well. 391 with 303 ISO.
Yeah. And Acuna and 6 or 5 batted ball events, 600 ISO against the pitch.
Yeah.
You have to take that with a grain of salt because Acuna not a lot of at bats so far this season against lefties.
Yeah. How about Markakis last night?
Lefty on lefty, I told you.
I know, dude. He's gonna crush 20 home runs this year.
He might be on some PEDs or something too. I don't know what he's doing, but he's crushing it. Like I don't even know if I would overlook him in the spot if you're stacking Braves. Like I think you can roll him out.
Yeah, I mean 417 WOBA, 182 ISO against lefties this year.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, not bad. So Miami side of things here, Foltynewicz. I don't mind him here. I kind of like him.
I do too, a little bit. Obviously, we saw him struggle in his last time out. The biggest issue I have is his price on DraftKings at 9,500. I don't know that I really want to pay that price for him. That Giant start, I believe it was Pitching Ninja that pointed out that Foltynewicz was tipping his pitches on his fastballs, and that led to the Giants just being able to just beat him to death. Hopefully, that's an issue that he got fixed because he is a guy that generally, very hard throwing fastball, generally has strikeout potential. Unfortunately, this Marlins team, not a team that strikes out a ton. Like if you take like Lewis Brinson out of that lineup, you get a bunch of guys that are striking out like right around 20% of the time. So it's a little bit risky on DraftKings at that price. I'd say tournaments only. FanDuel at 7,500, I do kind of dig that price there.
Yeah, price is much better around FanDuel. Just you mentioned Fulte, guy who does throw extremely hard, average about 96 on his fastball. Marlins not really a team that handles high heaters very well this year. Or sorry, dating back 2016. And even against sliders, his secondary pitch here, not a lot of great numbers. Justin Bour, always a viable one-off lefty.
Yeah, the biggest issue again that I have is just I don't know if the strikeout's going to be there because like if you look like this team doesn't have a lot of power against those high velocity fastballs, but like their whiff percentages outside of Justin Bour are all below 20% against the pitch.
Yeah, you got to look too. I mean, a lot of these guys here, like it's usually like one or two bats that really like will drive a strikeout rate up or down.
Yeah, for sure. And it's basically Lewis Brinson and I guess Brian Anderson. And isn't he? I thought I saw. Okay, I guess I was looking at someone else. I thought he might have been on the DL or sent to the DL, but I was looking at someone else.
I mean, if like Maben gets in live, like he's another strikeout bat, like that would help out a little bit.
Yeah, he's the guy I was thinking of. He's day to day.
Okay.
He tweaked his hip on Wednesday, I believe. He's listed as day to day. So, yeah.
Boy, the only guy you'd have interest in here.
Yes.
Yeah. Coors, Milwaukee, heading into Colorado. You got Jerome Marquez take on Ulyss Chassin. For me, it's always the lefties against Chassin. He's a guy who just relies on that slider. The problem is that slider is not thrown hard.
No. I don't know if he can rely on that slider in this outing, and that could be problematic just because, his pitches don't work that well in Coors. So we'll have to wait. We'll have to see if it's something that he struggles with. You mentioned it's the lefties, though. I mean, dating back to 2017, 180 ISO, 352 allowed to lefties. What is it this season? 413 WOBA, 188 allowed, ISO allowed. So, yeah, lefties are the ones that are going to be in play here from the Colorado side for me.
Yeah, and some of these lefties, hit sliders pretty well. Blackman, 341 WOBA, 263 ISO, 75% contact rate. Cargo, just 272 WOBA, but hard contact, 453 XWOBA with 237 ISO, 46% hard contact. I like Cargo in this spot.
I do too. And he's projected to bat cleanup, I think.
Yeah, he's super cheap. He's 4K.
Yeah, he's cheap on FanDuel too, and it is a very good spot for him. I like Blackman, obviously. He's in play every single night, doesn't matter who the pitcher is, just because he's so freaking good. And like David Dahl on FanDuel, 3K, I think he's definitely interesting too.
Yeah, just freaking get him in the lineup. Stop playing Para.
Yeah, I don't know what they're gonna do. Like Para, I guess, is in play if he's in the lineup because he's also cheap and he hasn't been completely terrible recently. But I would rather have Dahl in there than Para.
Yeah, I do too. I'm not terribly high on the righties. I mean, I guess you can obviously make a case for him if you expect Chassin to kind of get out early. But I mean, overall, Chassin's a decent guy against right-handers. He does give up a lot of hard contact, but that slider is much more effective. I just don't think that slider is going to work.
I don't think so either. So I don't know what he's going to do. If you want to roll out the righties, obviously LeMahieu, Arenado, Story, and great spots. It's Coors. Don't overlook Tony Wolters if he gets in the lineup over Iannetta. That'd be another lefty. They may end up doing that. That'd be another lefty that could punish Chastain here.
Yep. Other side of this one here, you got Marquez, a guy who's given up more so to righties. 355 WOBA, 253 ISO day back to last year. A guy who throws some decent stuff. A guy whose stuff kind of somewhat works in Coors. I don't mind some of these bats here. Obviously, Milwaukee's going to be a popular team. But I do have some interest in some of the right-handers.
Yeah, it's his four-seam fastball. He's throwing it. It's a 95-mile-an-hour fastball. He's throwing it like 47% of the time. 208 ISO allowed on it this season. His curveball 26% of the time. 304 ISO allowed on that pitch. So I would be looking at the guys that hit those pitches really well. When you look like Domingo Santana last season, 235 ISO against curveballs, 317 against, four-seam fastballs in that velocity range. He's a guy that I really, really like, especially on DraftKings, because he's really, really cheap over there, 4,100, and it's a pretty good spot for him. Um, Jesus Aguilar, if he gets in the lineup, I do have some interest in him as well. He actually has a decent amount of power against right-handed pitching. I don't know. I guess it would be crazy to overlook Travis Shaw in this spot, even though Marquez is much better against lefties. But Shaw, a ton of power in this spot.
Yeah, like I would even still use Sean Yelich here. Manny Pena's 3,100 on DK. He's my catcher tonight.
Yeah, if I'm not playing Perez, it's going to be probably Manny Pineapple for me.
Yeah, so definitely a good spot for these guys. I like the Domingo Santana call. Obviously, big power against right-handers.
Yeah, and someone else that stood out for me earlier was Orlando Arcia. He's a guy that should be in the lineup because they're without who was it that got hurt? Nick Franklin got called up when Sogard got sent down, and Nick Franklin got hurt. So now I guess Arcia is going to be a guy that gets a decent amount of playing time. And last season against those four-seam fastballs in that velocity range, 240 ISO. And Arcia is really cheap on FanDuel. I think he's 3K.
Yeah, he's only 3,100 on DK too.
Yeah.
So you got some cheaper Brewers options at the bottom half of this lineup.
For sure.
So moving to the later games here, Washington, Arizona. Zach Greinke take on Tanner Roark. I wouldn't mind Tanner Roark if he sees like a right-handed heavy lineup here.
Yeah, I have a lot of interest in him if he does, especially at that price. I mean, 7,400 on DraftKings. That's really, really cheap for a guy that has not really been terrible this season. Like he's had a couple blow up spots, but like he's actually been pretty good. And you mentioned against righties, like 266 WOBA allowed dating back to last season, 24% strikeout rate, 0.78 home runs per nine. Plays pretty well in that park. Like he has struggled against lefties dating back to last season, 347 WOBA allowed, and 1.62 homers. But like if this lineup is right-handed heavy, he could cruise here.
Yeah, he definitely could. Like his worst start, was against the Giants. I think he scored like 8 DK points.
Yeah.
Other than that, I mean, this guy eats innings. He goes, he's gone 6 or more innings in all but one start. That Giants game you kind of expect just because they probably had 4 or 5 lefties in that lineup. I think we talked about that game, it seems, somewhat recently. Yeah, I like him here. 7,400 on DK seems like a reasonable price. You probably expect guys like Peralta and Descalso being in the lineup, but like, Marte's not someone I'm shying away from, like if they add in another lefty or two. Peralta's the bat that I would have some interest in, but they just don't have a lot of lefties to toss in here anymore.
Yeah, but I'm not worried about Peralta because he's just going to hit like a 95-mile-an-hour ground ball. So, I mean, I'm not that worried about it.
Hey, his ground ball rate's down a little bit this year. I know we usually do shit all over him, but
it is down a little bit this year, so that is promising. But yeah, like it would be Peralta to Descalso. Ketel Marte on FanDuel is interesting because he's dirt cheap, and second base on FanDuel is kind of terrible.
Yeah, that's it. It's the lefties that you'd be looking at here. He's very solid against righties. Good ground ball stuff. His whiff rate on some of his pitches too, knuckle curve and slider, have been nearly over 30-35%.
Yeah, for sure. Like it's just a really good spot for him if you don't get like 6 lefties in there, which I don't even know if they could do that.
No, like looking through like who they have, like obviously Lamb's on the DL. I know they have like Dyson and Avila, but the way Avila's swinging the bat this year, 48% strikeout rate, I'm okay with him being in there.
Yeah, I'd actually like it a little bit more if he was in there.
Washington side of things here against Greinke. I don't know. I don't know what to make of this start. I don't like Greinke though.
I don't know that I really like him. I don't know that I want to pick on him too much. I think that it would be a very contrarian stack. Like he has this season alone, he has kind of struggled against lefties. I mean, 211 ISO allowed, 317 WOBA allowed. You have some lefties in there like Bryce Harper and Matt Adams. Like I know Harper has struggled recently, but he got the day off yesterday because of his struggles. So hopefully that kind of helps him out a little bit. Matt Adams, dude is absolutely ranking 448 ISO this season against right-handed pitching. He's hit like 7 home runs in his last 10 games. He's playing pretty well. One guy, and I don't think people will realize that he's been this good. Down in that 9 hole, like Wilmer Defoe, like I was writing about him for Friday. Um, Down in that 9 hole, he is absolutely just mashing. Like in his career, 365 WOBA, 143 ISO, down in that 9 hole. But like in 2018, you would think he was actually Bryce Harper because of Um, his numbers down there, batting ninth, 464 batting average, but was it 565 WOBA, 321 ISO against when he's batting in that 9 hole. So like, don't overlook him here if you're stacking the Nationals, and I think you can use him as a one-off.
Is what 3,600. People are gonna look and go, I'm not paying that for Defoe.
Yeah, and that might be a mistake.
So, yeah, Greinke's one of those guys. Like he's just the velocity's gone. He's just working on that changeup and slider, throwing it about 50% of the time, trying to go all Tanaka on us because he has to. But there's just not a lot of guys that profile well against sliders and changeups here.
Yeah, it's one of those situations where it is definitely a stack that I don't know that I would have a ton of interest in, but like, I mean, if you look like against sliders, like he's throwing that slider what 30% of the time to righties. You do have Rendon 217 ISO last season, Zimmerman 229 ISO last season, Trey Turner 227 ISO last season, Bryce Harper against like he's not throwing that slider very often to lefties, but Bryce Harper like a 500 ISO against it. There are some guys that I definitely think are viable and are going to go overlooked. Like Matt Adams, definitely.
Yeah, especially at these prices, they're not priced down at all.
No, they're not, and I mean I'm completely fine with them not being priced down.
No, it's a contrarian stack. It is something that really could take down GPP tonight.
Yeah, it could.
Minnesota, LA, Garrett Richards versus Jose Barrios. Garrett Richards, 8,900. Has looked better. I'm starting to buy back in a little bit here. I still will not go there in cash, but I do like them in GPPs.
I'm feeling risky tonight. I'm going to go there in cash on DraftKings. I mean, it's a good spot for him. Like if you look, like there's a couple bats that you're really worried about here. Like he's throwing that slider 51% of the time this season to righties. Like Dozier 163 ISO against the pitch last season. Outside of him, like there's really no one you're really concerned about. I guess Eduardo Escobar hit sliders pretty well last season. So those would be the two bats you're mostly worried about from that side of the plate. From the left side, like he's throwing that slider about 28% of the time. Rosario is the only guy that really profiles extremely well against that pitch. So there are a couple guys that you're really worried about, but for the most part, he should be able to get through this game pretty much unscathed. Like there are some guys with power against sliders, but also a lot of double-digit swing strike rates against the pitch.
Yeah, there's a ton of strikeout upside here for Richards. And you look, walks have been a little bit better. He had one last start against Seattle, 3 against the Yankees where, he got cooked pretty early. But, I mean, strikeouts have been there, 11, 8 in 2 of the last 3 starts. Like, yeah, I definitely like him here. It's just Richards and cash scares me.
It is a little bit scary. I mean, I definitely will say that, but I mean, walks obviously you do have to be a little bit concerned about whenever you're a guy throwing that slider that much. If it's not really working for you, you're not getting guys to chase, it's going to be problematic. But I still think he's a fine option here.
Yeah, I do too. I'm not really looking to pick on him with anyone. Like you mentioned a couple names, but there's enough games where I don't feel like I need to pick on Richards.
No, unless you're just trying to be contrarian in a small field tournament and you think Richards is going to be popular and you want to try to knock out that crowd, you could roll out the Doziers, like Escobars and Rosarios as like GPP low owned options.
Yeah. Barrios, 13 runs over his last 3 starts. I thought maybe the Yankees start was just something, whatever, but then facing Cincinnati and Chicago still did not look good.
Did not look good at all. I don't quite know what to make of it. It's a situation where I don't know. I don't really know what to make it of it. Like on DraftKings and tournaments, if you wanted to roll him out, I think you could because he's 7,800. That's pretty cheap for a guy with the strikeout upside that he has shown. I think I would rather go with like Sabathia or someone like that. But I don't know. It's very weird to see him struggle like this. I hope he's not injured. And generally, when guys drop off like this, that it could be a sign that that is the case. Don't really know that I want to pick on him though. I don't. Outside of maybe like obviously Trout is someone that you would want to look at, but that'd be about it.
Yeah, it's like Trout and Upton here. This is a guy like he obviously has that filthy curve, and it's just not a lot of guys profile well against it or make contact with it. And it's like I do think Berrios could have a decent start here. It's one of those things now where I'd rather see him flash in form before using him. And there's 5 pitchers, 6 pitchers on this slate that I feel like I'd rather use before him.
Yeah, it's a tournament option if you're playing a bunch of lineups.
Yeah, I want to dig into his velocity real quick, but I guess we can come back to it. Um, Cincinnati, LA, Walker Buehler here, I think is going to be a somewhat popular option. Obviously, in a spot against Cincinnati, I don't mind him here.
No, it's fine if he is going to be a popular option. Obviously, he's shown he has the stuff to succeed in the majors. He's got a 29% strikeout rate dating back to last season. This Reds team striking out 20% of the time against righties so far this season. Not a lot of power against him. There are a couple bats that I think are a little bit concerning, especially considering Bueller's hard hit rate still has not come down that much against righties. He's still 361 WOBA allowed, 38% hard contact to the handedness. That is a little bit concerning because there are a couple right-handed bats that do have some power, but I don't know, it's still a fine spot for him.
Yeah, definitely isn't. Bruce's velocity stayed the same, so I'm not too worried.
Yeah, I was trying to look and Fangraphs was down for me.
It was super slow. Yeah, I was like, come on, it just kept spinning, but looks fine. Yeah, I mean, I'm not really looking to use Reds here. I will say I think you can always look at a Joey Votto and GPPs here in the spot. Not that he's ever like a just a GPP guy, but 4,500 can be super low owned.
Yeah, he will. He would be one guy that you could roll out. Eugenio Suarez does kind of stand out as someone that's a little bit interesting. Dating back to 2016, Bueller throws it's basically a 97, 98 mile an hour four-seam fastball, throwing it a decent amount, 52% of the time. Suarez 309 ISO against the pitch. He would be like a one-off right-handed power bat if you wanted to try to take advantage of Bueller here.
Yeah, he's crushing. You look at Votto too against curveballs, 485 WOBA, 317 ISO, 87% hard contact, 87% contact rate.
Yeah, so there's a couple bats that are a little bit concerning, but for the most part, I think Bueller is a fine option here.
Yeah, those are the only 2 bats we're ever going to say are going to scare you anyway.
Probably.
So, LA side of things here, they're in a good spot just because we look at Molly struggled against lefties.
Yeah, it's one of those spots. I mean, if you look, Molly dating back to last season, 45% hard contact, 387 WOBA, 2.16 homers per 9 allowed to lefties. So obviously, you would want to be looking at the lefties here. I mean, it's starting with like Jock Peterson, who's dirt cheap. Is he projected? He's projected to bat second. That's a really, really good spot for him. Yasmani Grandal, another great catcher option, I think, if you're really looking to stack the Dodgers. Cody Bellinger stands out as a great option here too.
Yep, like all those guys, all very cheap for the power upside that they have. Like Bellinger at 4,200 just seems way too easy. You have a couple lefties down that back half line if you absolutely dive down for value, but I feel like you don't need to. I still don't mind Chris Taylor here if you want to like complete the stack or like a Matt Kemp, but it really is the lefties.
Yeah, that's really where I'm looking. And if you look like Yasmani Grandal against 92 mile an hour four seam fastballs, 311 ISO dating back to 2016. You have Cody Bellinger with a 468. 2 great guys there. You mentioned value guys at the bottom of that lineup. Max Muncy is a guy you could look at if you need the value option. Not touching Chase Utley here. Sorry guys, not doing it. So those would be the guys that I would really look at.
How dare you disrespect the Silver Fox?
My bad. And Jock Peterson, not a ton of power, 178 ISO against that pitch, but 41% hard contact, 326 average distance, 93 mile an hour average exit velocity. Pretty good numbers there.
Yeah. Last game of the night here, you got Cardinals and Padres. Miles Michaelis here against Jordan Lyles. Definitely have some interest here in Michaelis.
Can I take a victory lap for being on Mikolas since day one?
Yes, you can.
Okay. I mean, I was on Mikolas since day one, so there you go. And
I can back you up on that.
And he's been outside of what, one bad start, and I think that was his day one start against the Brewers. He's been pretty darn good. I know 2 games against the Brewers. He's been really, really good. He's gone 7 innings in four straight games. Has shown the strikeout upside that we kind of expected out of him. Really, really, really good spot for him against these Padres, who are unfortunately striking out 28% of the time against right-handed pitching this season.
Yeah, and his curveball is absolutely what I love here. Guy throws about 25% of the time. God, these Padres are awful against it.
his curveball, if you have not watched his outings, his curveball is filthy. One of the nastiest curveballs I've seen. Like it is just, it's gross.
It's so nasty. Trevor Bauer is going to question it.
He might start accusing Mikolas of using some pine tar or some like fancy like Japanese holistic something or another that he got over while he was in Japan.
Yeah, he's wiping a little ramen dust on his hat.
Something like that.
I like him here a lot. I'm fine with him in cash and GPPs.
Yeah, I like him. I like him here as a pivot off of Buehler if you want to fade the Buehler chalk. Just a couple $100 cheaper on DraftKings and on FanDuel. He's really cheap at 8,500. Buehler's pretty much the same price though, so I think Mikolas is going to be lower owned of the 2 options. But if you wanted to use like Mikolas and Buehler together on 2 pitcher sites, you definitely could.
Yeah, definitely. Cardinals had things here. Not a bad spot against Jordan Lyles. Cardinals have been kind of a frustrating team to use this year, but I do like them, and I don't think a lot of people are going to go here. They're one of my kind of like favorite like late night hammer teams.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's not a lot of hitters that I think I'm terribly interested in. Like Lyle's a guy dating back to last season, really, really bad against lefties. 407 a WOBA allowed, 233 ISO. Carpenter in a good spot. Fowler, if he can ever hit the ball ever again in his life, this would probably be the spot that he does it. Colton Wong, I know he's going to bat towards the bottom of that order, but he's an excellent option, especially on FanDuel at 2,400 at a second base position that I don't really love.
Yeah. I mean, I don't hate the rates. Like, you obviously, Lyle's numbers against lefties are far worse, but I mean, still 212 ISO dating back to last year. Right-handers 344 WOBA. If obviously if guys like Tommy Pham, who's for some reason just probably should hit the DL at this point, gets in the lineup in play. I do think like Ozuna's still in play here.
Yeah, he's a guy that you could look at. Let me pull up Lyles here. What is he throwing to righties this season? So he's throwing at 95 mile an hour 4-seamer the most, and his curveball a little bit. So yeah, I would be looking at guys that hit those pretty well. And if you look, Tommy Pham 208 ISO against the pitch, Paul DeYoung 235, Francisco Pena, if he gets in the lineup, has some decent numbers against that pitch, and he's a catcher option that I can guarantee you no one is going to be rolling out tonight.
Yeah, Jose Martinez 52% our contact rate against that range.
Yeah, where's this regression that everyone talked about with Jose Martinez? I'm waiting for it.
I don't recall seeing anything or anything leading up to it.
It hasn't happened yet. I'm still waiting.
No, I like him. He's probably one of those guys I played like in a stack, just because there's a couple of their first basemen like Bellinger that I'd probably rather use.
Yeah, I would be using he'd be a good option on like FanDuel or Fantasy Draft, where you can use multiple first basemen.
Yeah, for sure. Home run calls, you got the dude. Who else?
Yeah, I'm going back to with Duda, and I'm going to go with another guy that hit a home run last night, Teoscar Hernandez.
Ooh, yeah, I'm staying in that game. I'm going to go Justin Smoke. Yeah, and then I'm gonna go Grandal.
I dig it.
So for us, I'll be back tomorrow with a loaded, was it 14, 15 game slate?
14 game slate.
What Cubs playing the early game?
Yes.
Good. FanDuel can leave it off. That's it for us. You can enter DaveFantasyCafe.com, check out our tools and content, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.
Good luck tonight.